Good to see many attendees piling in good and early. We've got a Q&A session going on the webinar. If somebody could just shout on there that they can actually hear me speaking, that would be really helpful. Thank you, Helen. A little gold star for being the first to answer. Thank you very much. Helena, silver star, you were second. The next question is, can you see the PowerPoint title slide? Hi, everyone.
Hey, Dave, everything looks good.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Jen. Does that mean my work is done here now then? Okay, 2:30, we'll give the usual latecomers the usual 2 minutes just to join in, and then we'll get started for everybody. Appreciate your time. Is everybody taking advantage of the sunshine today? I live absolutely bang on the coast and it's been foggy pretty well most of the morning. It's just about burned through now. So foggy, cold and horrible, even the cat didn't want to go outside this morning. Right, I think we have enough to constitute a quorum. So let's get going. So for those of you that don't know us, I'm Dave Gibson. I'm co-founder and CEO of Blue Sky. We are one of the sponsors of Digital Union. We're a chartered accountancy practice that specialises in tech, digital and creative businesses based in North Shields. So we lived in the old 100 pub, converted pub in North Shields. We already had a remote and flexible working policy. So kind of everybody distributing to the back bedrooms is pretty well business as usual for us, but the overall situation isn't, just like it's not for everybody else, and there's kind of lots of changes going on, and we're trying to keep on top of information for our clients and for you guys as best as we can. And the purpose of today really is, it's a bit of an open Q&A, so throw me any questions you've got. I can promise to answer them all. I can't promise to have the answer that you want, because the answer might be I don't know. But let's see kind of where things take us. I've tried to put a little bit of structure around it rather than just kind of answering random questions on random things. So we're focusing specifically on the help that's available from the Treasury and HMRC sparked by the coronavirus outbreak. So I'll start off with the elephant in the room, which is for self-employed people. And the answer to that is log on to our 10 o'clock webinar tomorrow. We know that the Chancellor is going to be making a statement at the usual 5 p.m. briefing tonight. There's been all sorts of rumours and hearsay flying about social media all week about what's going to be in there. People's opinions are being stated as facts. It's just like absolute total fake news going on. We do think that what will probably be put into place for the self-employed will be something that's got some kind of technical averaging over 2 or 3 years, 80% of your earnings. But then there'll be adjustments for tax, there'll be adjustments for this, there'll be adjustments for that. We don't know if by self-employed they're including consultants and contractors, so people who are working as effectively one-man bands through a limited company. So I don't really want to spend much time on that today. Let's see what tomorrow brings, and I'm sure it'll be a big topic of conversation tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. We'll also, in our webinar tomorrow at 10, be joined by Sean Fooey from the British Business Bank, who can give a probably much better outline of the CBILS, which is a Corona Business Interruption Loan Scheme, than I can, but I'm going to attempt to do that as best I can in the meantime. Any questions so far? Just keep the questions coming, that's absolutely fine. So if I move on to the job retention scheme, this is based on people going on furlough, and it seems to be a term that many people struggle to understand. So the point of the job retention scheme is to retain a job in a circumstance where under normal, in inverted commas, circumstances, you would make an individual redundant. So rather than making them redundant, you can place them on furlough, provided that employment law provides for that. And I know Jane Hart was majoring on this yesterday in her webinar with Digital Union. But provided you can do so, you can place people on furlough, HMRC will then pay or refund to you, the employer, 80% of the costs of their gross salary. We think that will include employers' national insurance as well. We don't know about pension, although pension contributions, although we know there is discussions going on about potentially allowing you to freeze pension contributions. So there's still a lot of detail to work out there. The one thing people can't get their head around is, what does furlough mean? So it's like, you know, can I, if I've only got 2 days work for somebody instead of 5, can I just pay him for 2 days and claim furlough for the rest? And the answer is no, 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 no. Furlough means it's the same effectively to you as an employer as it would be the same as making them redundant. They can do no work for the business. That includes not answering the telephone, that includes not answering emails, absolutely no work whatsoever. That's being on furlough. We're also digging around and we're trying to clarify if there's going to be any regulations about being able to put people on furlough and then take them off again and then put them on again. I think that would be reasonably popular with quite a lot of the population. No feedback on that yet. That might take another week or two to kind of dribble through. So far, so good. In terms of payment for it, what we recommend is you run your payroll as normal. You pay the employee as normal. And then, you know, when the time comes, we make a repayment claim. There will be an online portal available from HMRC. That's expected to be ready by the end of April. They don't do new tech quickly very good at all, so let's expect some gremlins there as well. And I would set your expectations that the first payment's coming through in May, so there will be a little bit of a cash flow gap for you if you're actually putting employees onto the scheme. We'll give further details on that. Any of you that are Blue Sky clients that we're running the payroll for, we're intending, if at all possible, to administer this reclaim process for you as part and parcel of the deal. Directors are still a grey area here. So under company law, a sole director can't abdicate his duties to run the company. So that's classed as working and you can't fall under furlough. The tax faculty of the Institute of Chartered Accountants is pushing for this to be priority. So we think that once the self-employed issue has been got out of the way, then we'll be looking at directors and their remuneration plans in total. Are there any questions on that? they know. The technology lost me my Q&A. I'm sure it'll come back. Here we go. We have questions. Alan, how is furlough going to be policed? Goodness knows, we just don't know what the process is at all. So we think that they're going to be doing some matching in terms of the claims compared to what's gone through PAYE before. So it's very much a PAYE based thing. How the police, whether people are actually working or not, is a different issue. And I think it's probably down to the employer to do this in an ethical manner. Bear in mind that the point of the scheme is not just a great big money tree for everybody to plunder. It's to genuinely support people who would otherwise have been made redundant so that they can pay the mortgages, the rent, and feed the family. So I think it's incumbent on all of us to kind of play by the rules here at all. Stephen, is my role as director not separate to my role as employee and payee? No. Is the answer a director is an employee? It's as simple as that. So, but as a director, even if the company ceases trading, there would still be administration to do. You still got your VAT returns to put in. You'd still be attending webinars to work out what's happening in the future and kind of researching. So as we say at the moment, we believe directors are outside the furlough process, but the Institute of Chartered Accountants are asking questions around there. My business top up the 80% salary 100%? Yes, they can. And what a nice employer you might be, Micah, as well. I would say if there's ever a time to look after number one and be selfish, now might be that time as an employer. If you do your cash flow, do your forecasting. We ran a webinar on that earlier on in the week. Make sure that you know you're going to have enough money for yourselves and for the business to come out of this at the other end. If you can do that and still top people's salaries up to 100%, then absolutely brilliant. They're going to love you to bits for that. And well done. You're not living the life of Tim Martin and Mike Ashley there, but you don't have to. So potentially the Treasury can kind of cover everything that you're paying to the employee there. Any further questions around furlough? No. If we move on to CBILS then. So this is a coronavirus business interruption loan scheme. It's taken over from EFG, the Enterprise Finance Guarantee Scheme, which again underwrote loans to businesses from the Treasury. It's a bit complicated, so please bear with me. So it's not an everybody can borrow anything for any kind of purpose type scheme. That's not what it's for. It's to cover loans to businesses that need the loan for coronavirus related dips or annihilation of business to help see them through the other end. Again, so it's further assistance, but it is a loan. So where the job retention scheme payments are effectively a grant, it's paid and that's it, you don't need to pay them back. CBILS is a loan. There will be an expectation that it's paid back. So the positive things is it's interest free for 12 months and should be arrangement fee free for 12 months as well. Whilst the lender can ask for a personal guarantee, some of them, NatWest and Lloyds in particular, are spearheading the fact that they won't ask for personal guarantees if they're lending money under the scheme, which is brilliant. One of the rules of the scheme is that your principal private residence is not at risk anyway, which is kind of one of the big worries sometimes when you're putting a PG in on a loan. And you can borrow up to £5 million per business. I suspect if your turnover is only 50 grand, then they're going to ask questions about that. But there you go. But it's not a free for all for everybody. Again, so there needs to be a business case, and the loan needs to go to a business that would have a reasonably good commercial case for a loan for business expansion or for working capital if coronavirus didn't exist. So it's not just for everybody. And also, if your business is in good shape, and I know, although most businesses are suffering, some businesses are actually thriving at the moment. If the business is in good shape and the bank or lender would lend to you anyway, regardless, then you just have a normal commercial loan. The scheme wouldn't apply to you. There's still kind of a lot of detail to be moved out, and I think there's still some lack of consistency in the way some of the lenders are approaching this, which I'm sure will kind of work its way out over the next few days. Probably the reason for that is I was speaking to an account manager at Barclays earlier on in the week, and she told me that before the loan scheme was officially launched on Monday morning, the terms and conditions and guidance for criteria was redrafted 22 times over the weekend. So it was good fun for the lawyers, I'm absolutely sure. And so it's no wonder that the banks and lenders are kind of almost making this up as they go along as much as anything else. So I'm sure attitudes and processes will kind of change and mature over the next few days. Are there any questions on that? So personal opinion, it's a good thing if you can see your way out of this. It's not necessarily a good thing if it's open-ended and you don't know if you're borrowing enough money to see yourself through. Okay. Okay, on to deferments. So for those of you that are VAT registered, for your VAT periods ending the end of February, March or April this year, you can defer any payments due and you have until the end of the tax year, so that's April the 5th, 2021, to catch up and make those payments. If you do want to defer the payment, cancel your direct debit. If you don't cancel your direct debit, they will take the payment anyway, and you won't get it back if you go and ask. Okay. Like with everything else then, it's a loan. The VAT has to be repaid at some stage. It's kind of there to help you with any cash flow issues you've got in the short term, in the hope that you were going to have the cash flow to repay that in the longer term. If you cancel the direct debit, don't necessarily set it up straight away as well. It's more than feasible that the scheme will be extended for another period, or maybe even two as well, depending how things go throughout the year. Same for the self-assessment payment on account deferment. So anybody who's self-employed but has a July payment on account to make doesn't need to pay that until next January as well. And there's no need to apply or anything like that. There's no penalties or interest going to be applied to that. That applies to self-employed. That doesn't at this moment in time apply to directors who kind of mix and match PAYE and dividends as part of their income and generally have tax to pay because of the dividend income. Those payments on account at the moment will still exist, and the way to defer them would be to go through the new time to pay helpline with HMRC if you do need to defer those. What I would say is here at Blue Sky, what we're really aiming to do as far as possible, and it won't be possible for everybody, but for as many as possible, is to get your 2019-20 tax returns done as quickly as possible after the end of this tax year. Because for some people, it may be that we can, for genuine reasons, actually reduce those payments on account anyway, even if they need to be paid. So jump up and down and just make sure you get your tax returns done early. Everybody is a key thing. Then, if the worst case is that you know exactly what is actually due in July and January. Again, as we said, there's representations being made to look at how we can help directors in the future, and it might be that the self-assessment deferment is extended to director shareholders of small businesses. So, Graham, the job retention scheme, are you saying we only need to pay 80% and not 100%, but we still claim the 80% back? Yes, that's correct. So you only need to pay the 80% and you'll get refunded at 80%. It's entirely up to you as to whether you top up the other 20%. SSP, anyone? Should we go on to that? Oh, here we go. Pamela. So you have a mix of PAYE and self-employed, although self-employment will dry up. Yeah, that's a really good question. Who knows, I think is the answer I'm going to give, although I'm sure it's not the answer that you want. I would say be patient. Let's just see what flows through for directors anyway. And I'm suspecting that your payments on account are going to be generated because of your self-employment work anyway. So I would be hopeful that you would be okay. What I would say is, again, get your tax return done early, and by the time that's happened, then I'm sure we'll know. Accessing the time to pay helpline, go and attack them good and early. Don't wait until the last day or two. They're tremendously busy now. They started off with 2,000 people on the call centre. They've expanded that to 7,000 now, but you can bet your boots on the likes of July the 31st or deadline day for VAT returns. You're going to really struggle to get through. So always give them a ring, good and early. Pamela and everybody else as well, what I'd say is just keep an eye on our blog page and our social media, because we're kind of filtering stuff out every day now whenever we're kind of learning anything new around this. I'm kind of expecting the next week or two still to give us more questions than answers, and then maybe the next week or two after that to start giving us more answers and questions until we get the processes all in place. I'll quickly go on to SSP for those of you that are employers. So if you have an employee that goes on the sick and the absence is related to coronavirus, either they have it or they've been told to self-isolate, then you can pay them SSP from day 1 of sickness rather than from day 4, and the first 2 weeks of that can then be reclaimed. As with the job retention scheme, there isn't a process yet for the reclaim, but I suspect that'll follow hot on the heels of the JRS scheme. Also, none of the payroll software is geared up for this kind of thing, so keep really good records of who's been off for what, because these rules don't apply to other absences that are not coronavirus related. If any of your employees say, I have to stay at home to look after the kids because the school's shut because of coronavirus, that's not sick pay, that's normal parental leave. So that's kind of between you and them and existing employment law as to how you handle that at the moment. Again, directors are not covered for the SSP reclaim at the moment if they don't have an employment contract, which is usually the case. But again, the Institute of Chartered Accountants Tax Faculty thinks that the directors might be able to claim it if you're on payroll and you earn over the £180 a week, which most of you will. We'll be getting an update in that sometime next week. So I'll happily share it through Jeff and through Digital Union with everyone. Anybody not eligible for SSP would need to claim employee support allowance, which is claimed through the job centre, but the employee doesn't have to go to the job centre. There's going to be, again, an online process to reclaim that. Okay, and this reclaim is open to all employers. I'm really whizzing through this and I'm actually running out of topics now. Has anybody got any questions? Here we go then, another one from Graham. So assume from a cash management point of view, we can't rely on the 80% because the system is not currently in place to recover the cost. That's a reasonable assumption, Graham. So you will be paying the money out before you get it back. And there's no guarantee yet when it will come back. Although, as I say, our expectation is that it'll come back. It'll start coming back sometime in May. And also our expectation is to look to speed up the process as much as possible. So that can kind of repay you as quickly as possible after you've done the reclaim. I'm not impressed with the likes of Wetherspoon saying, well, they're just not paying the staff until they get the reclaim in. I don't think it's going to work that way. I suspect you're going to have to make the payment and then reclaim. So there is a cash flow question there. You're kind of going to need to work out how you can manage that. Again, if you need some kind of short-term loan or overdraft to kind of tide you through this, I'm sure the lenders are going to be kind of more than amenable to anything of that nature, just to help you through there. Small business grants for businesses. Yeah, good question, Alan. So there's two elements to this. So those businesses in hospitality and leisure, which isn't going to be much of the audience here, first of all, we'll have no rates to pay in 2021, in 2020/21. And certainly, depending on the rate of full value, can take a grant of between £10,000 and £25,000. The rates holiday for next year has been extended in the last 24 hours to include the likes of estate agents, and we expect further extension to include a lot of retail there. Then there's a second grant, which is a small business grant for businesses. Anybody who's in the business rates reduction scheme, so you're paying rates, but you're getting reduction on your rates because it's fairly small. It's the rate payer that gets the grant, not the landlord or owner of the premises, and it relates to each individual premise as well. Does that answer the question, Alan? Say that as a yes. As people work from home, get nothing. So if your normal life is there's just you and your limited company and you're based at home and your registered office is your home address, that's correct. At the moment, you get nothing. But yeah, that's where the ICAW is making representations now. So hopefully people like yourself will be kind of on the third wave of this coming through. There's probably about 3 million of you up and down the country, so it's not going to be a quiet voice shouting out now. We just need to see what today's announcements on the self-employed actually covers, because they've talked about self-employed and contractors. Well, what do they mean by contractors? Do they mean people who are working through their own limited companies? Because that's kind of how contractors work as well. Tonight might answer that question and it might not, but if not, then yeah, I'm sure there'll be developments over the next week or two. Pamela, you've read that you don't have to apply for the grant. The local authority will contact the business. Yes and no. So I think the local authority should do, and I think for some of the grants it's automatic. So if you're in hospitality, then they'll automatically cancel your rates bill, that kind of thing. I know for North Tyneside, which is where we're based, the local authority have released an email address for you to contact, just basically so they can confirm contact details first, and then they'll contact you for bank details, so that make the payment direct to bank rather than sending a check in the post to an address that's going to be abandoned for the next 3 months, kind of thing. I would say just contact the local authority anyway. I think they're generally gearing up resource to kind of work on this, and there should be an email address from or contact details from every local authority. Graham, yeah, PSCs, personal service companies, exactly is what I mean. So yeah, are they counted in tonight's announcement or are they not? We'll find out tonight. For the business rates relief, we're in a digital zone, therefore don't pay any rates. So are you right in thinking we won't qualify for the 10K? Great question. I don't know the answer at all. So does the digital zone cover? It doesn't really cover under the small business rates relief side of things. That's a really good question, actually. You happy? What I would say is check with your local authority. I would say if in doubt, get in touch with the local authority anyway, and make the application. The worst that can happen is that they say no. Yeah, all of you just consult local authorities. Are going to love me, aren't they? They'll probably have more detail and more criteria. I know they've kind of had a set of processing criteria given to them by government. I haven't actually seen that in detail. Yeah, digital zone, I really don't know, Stephen, I'm sorry. Any further questions? Is there anything not even related to this that anybody wants to ask? When will the football season finish? Okay, what I suggest is you kind of know where we are. Check out our blog, like I say, follow us on social media. There's also a little cash flow model that you can download if you need on one of the blogs. That's absolutely free to anybody. Through there, you'll be able to contact us as well. If you've got any questions, give us a shout. Give some feedback back to Jeff at DU as well. In particular, we'll be more than happy to do further webinars, either on particular topics or a little bit more of an open Q&A like we've had today. So, kind of keep the questions coming and stay safe, everybody. So we'll call it a day there then. Is that okay? Thank you, everyone.